So this is Sense, and here I am making my review on on Rise of Skywalker, The Rise of Skywalker. ROS, which could be, Revenge of the Sith. So, you know that I'm generally a pretty big fan of the music in Star Wars movies, Skywalker movies. But I did enjoy the music pretty much here. I mean, didn't really stand out to me. If you saw my review on The Mandalorian, you know that I really love the music in The Mandalorian, so this is a little disappointing as not being as unique, as engaging, as interesting. But even you can move past the music. There was also some good sound design stuff here. I mentioned earlier, I feel like once you start getting to the Emperor and his lightning, a lot of stuff around the Emperor scenes, I just love the way they edited the sound of those scenes. Like you're just emphasizing so much. That brief cutout just where lightning goes and the way the lightning sounded and everything, all that was just, I don't know, it felt very powerful. And you kind of feel that in theater. I may not translate as well to home theater, but you felt it in the theater. Really enjoyed that. Let's just talk about positives in the movie. Let's just jump to my favorite thing, which is after Kylo is technically defeated by Rey and he's standing there, he's abandoned on the Death Star, or the wreck of the Death Star, and it's just him, and then Han shows up, which I guess to go back into part of the reason, kind of negative about the movie, but I'll get into later, but I kind of felt like a lot of the positives and negatives of this movie are really tied to the other two movies, which is kind of an issue, but I really, really disliked the moment in the Force Awakens where Han gets killed. I felt like it wasn't built up very well. Kylo didn't deal with it, and it didn't feel significant. And then the next movie came through, and nothing happened with it either. And it just felt like a wasted moment. It was just a shocker moment, just oh wow, we just killed someone from the old trilogy moment. I really disliked it. It was like one of my biggest marks against the Force Awakens, other than I just didn't care for any of the characters. Being able to see Kylo actually feel something about that moment, talk about it, have this interaction with his dad, kind of has something good come out of the whole situation, having them reconcile in this last moment. That is my favorite moment from the trilogy. It was like, just watching that thing was like, I was like, I don't know, I didn't realize it was some huge thing, I guess, hang over me since I saw The Force Awakens, but being able to see this moment, it was a big relief. I really enjoyed it. That's why I have to say it's my favorite moment out of the trilogy. It is based off my previous least favorite moment in the trilogy, which is no longer my least favorite because it has this to kind of accompany it and have a beginning and an end to it. So now I enjoy it a lot more, but that's my favorite moment. There was a lot of concluding stuff from former movies, which is nice to have this stuff wrapped up. Not always, because there's still stuff like Rose, which who knows where that story thing from The Last Jedi is going. It feels like she's just there now, and Finn's just there now. They just kind of look at each other somewhat, and that's about it. Who knows where that's going? They introduced the new character for Finn, another former stormtrooper, but again, that didn't seem to go anywhere. But that's a slightly different argument, which is that Finn didn't really have anything going on in this movie. He just was bouncing off other characters, having good interactions. There seemed to be something with, I need to tell you something to Rey. He never does. Even if they hint at it and you're able to put together off of other stuff, it doesn't particularly feel like a moment with him doing anything, with him having, here's my starting point, here's my ending point. It was just some stuff happened around him and he reacted to them, and he never had real agency, in my opinion. So the big agency was, at the end of the day, he decided to stay on the ship and basically sacrifice himself in order to stop the bad guys, but obviously wasn't that clean cut of a sacrifice. And at this point, it wasn't really that important, wasn't built up the way where he needed to be in the sacrifice. So I guess to say that kind of all just ties into the former movies, where you just kind of feel like a lot of this movie is just built on trying to conclude stuff, trying to wrap stuff up from other movies. It's all a lot too much about that, to the point where this movie itself doesn't have as much of identity, have as much of a message, as much of a story, which is kind of an issue to me. I like the movie to stand out on its own and try to say something, but I didn't feel like it did. So somewhat tied into character arcs that didn't go anywhere. Like, you had great kind of character arcs, so I felt, for Kylo and Rey. Like, Rey has never been that big of a character, really. She's just been, not to call her a MacGuffin or something, but she's kind of been like just this object that just does stuff for the characters, for the audience to follow. And she's sometimes when heroic stuff, I mean, they're all just building the story forward, but it feels like we're not really invited into her emotions as much. This movie was like the first time I really felt that. In the last movie, you had stuff where she's like, I must do this, I must do that, but it wasn't feeling super emotional, like she emotionally needed to do it. More felt more like she needed to do it because that's the type of thing a main character would do, less than not. That's the type of thing she personally wanted to do from her backstory, from her history, that she wanted to do. This one built it in a little bit more. You had earlier scenes with her looking at people's family, with seeing people with having regular childhoods, seeing all this stuff, and you kind of got that she wanted that. Like, you know she would, you intellectually know that from earlier movies that she would want that, but we never saw her want that. She was always so stoic about all this stuff, so it was nice to see some moments of that. It was a little heavy-handed. I felt like they were just bombarding you in the beginning of it, and it was a little bit rough because we've already seen her for 2 movies not be that cut up about it, so why is she so cut about it now? Kind of guess because she trained with Leia, but Leia wasn't super showing off any family stuff because she didn't have any of her family members around for Leia to bounce off of, so I don't know. I don't see 100% how she picked up this thing now in her journey and stuff earlier on, but it was still nice to have that and have it all translate. I mean, it really ended up nicely. You know, she's a Skywalker now. She's worked with these people. That's all nice. It's a little weird being a Skywalker, because I mean, Kylo Ren just turned into Ben Skywalker and they just kissed, and then like the next scene, she's like, "I'm a Skywalker now." It's like, it's a weird moment. Like, it has weird implications. So that's kind of a weird moment there. And I guess going off that, also in terms of character arcs being, like, while her arc I felt was pretty good, then you had stuff like Leia, which I get it, Carrie Fisher is no longer alive, so it's kind of rough. They had to use older footage, but it really felt like most scenes she was really aloof and stuff. When you expect her to talk, she wouldn't talk. It was just a lot of meaningful looks that weren't as meaningful because then she doesn't say anything later on even. I mean, it's not really their fault, but it is rough. I did like them showing that she got trained with the Force at some point and then just stopped short of being an actual Jedi, which is nice. It explains a lot and helps her whole character in the past movies a lot. But again, ties back to that, oh shoot, so much stuff is based off the old movies and making those better instead of telling its own story. And then Kylo, obviously I said I liked Kylo's character arc as well. I don't know, I felt like the way they told the story, it was pretty clear they wanted to redeem him, even if they didn't really. It was going to be like a Darth Vader type redemption where he does something with his dying breath to help, or you know, he basically kills himself to help them, and it felt like that's what they had to do because they built him up to be so terrible in the earlier 2 movies. But at the same time, due to promotions and everything, and the way they were promoting the movie and all that, it was pretty clear they were going to want to redeem him. So I feel like, given what they've already established and what they wanted to do, I feel like they did a pretty good job getting there. So I gotta give him kudos for that. They wrote that pretty well for appeasing the audience, what the audience would want. Basically, I mean, again, a lot of the movie is what the audience would want, which is not a bad thing. You're trying to sell movies. But I don't think it's the most organic, but it's not really an issue, really, because you hear and you want to go there, and they had that great moment with his dad to kind of, you know, put that twist in there and you're okay with it. It's a little weird, but okay, I guess I could go into my another gripe about the movie, which is the fight scenes. A lot of them were too long, and let's just focus on the main one that showed up in the advertisement. Them fighting on the Death Star and the water, the waves splashing and everything. That fight went on really long and you were not really clear what the point of the fight was. Like, in the beginning, they show, you know, she's got the Sith Wayfinder, Kylo crushes it, but you're like, okay. Obviously they'll fight in this kind of moment because last time they met, they went their opposite ways and they're like, we're not, I'm not joining you. So there's like, okay, there's gonna be some fighting. Now we need to establish what each person's feeling in this moment that leads to this, that's in this conflict. It kind of starts out with, okay, so he destroys it. He doesn't want to even ignite his lightsaber, but she's angry because she wanted the lightsaber. She needed the Wayfinder in order to track down Darth Sidious. So, okay, we got this fight going. So at first she's attacking, he's defending. It makes sense. She's got this anger, she's got this rage, but they just keep fighting. And they keep hitting each other. And they keep swooping, and they keep jumping, going to different locations and leaping and all this stuff. And it's like, cool fight, but is her rage still carrying on? She doesn't seem to be that angry. Like, again, she's somewhat of a stoic character. So she doesn't seem to be that angry and seems to be burning off. Why would, he doesn't seem to have a reason to want to actually fight her. He wants her to join him. And she keeps turning him down, but he still keeps asking. We haven't established that he's like, okay then, whatever. So, because we never had any scene, we didn't have any dialogue, we didn't have any scene looking at her, we didn't have any of that. Honestly though, from that moment on, the movie gets really weird with dialogue for Kylo Ren, to be honest. But anyway, after the whole thing, his mom interrupts him. He gets defeated. But the thing is, right before he gets interrupted, he looks like he's on the aggressive side. He wants to attack her. But they haven't had any discussion, they haven't had anything that makes him change from wanting to have her join him. So, they met earlier and he said, next time we meet, you better take my hand. She didn't take his hand. But then the next time they met, he didn't want to kill her. He was crushing away behind her. He was like, join me still. So having him turn around and actually attack her was weird. And then, I don't know, that whole situation was just really off. And it had a really long fight where you just didn't feel the importance of it. And I kind of felt like you had a little bit of that even before, later on in the movie. Kylo versus Knights of Ren. Knights of Ren were pretty pointless, but I was suspecting that to begin with. But him fighting them, they never talk. He never talked, which is another weird thing again. After he talks to his father, he doesn't say any actual dialogue for the rest of the movie until he dies. And we just ended with an awkward kiss and he's dead. Like, I get they're trying to say, oh, this is like a real emotion moment for sending emotions back and forth, but there's no dialogue, so some of these scenes just feel like, So last time she saw him, she stabs him, she heals him, she leaves. Next time she sees him, she doesn't even see him. She kind of force senses that he's in the same area and that he wants to do good. Not really explained, but they're now best pals and she's okay with it without really anything. I guess we're supposed to know they read minds or something. I feel like they've already established this whole link. They could have actually had a link moment and actually had them, maybe in a blink of an eye, just freeze frame, whatever, just some way of them communicating and them having this accordance, this agreement, this union or whatever it is. I don't know. Again, it makes it really awkward in the end when they're just staring into each other's eyes like, we're gonna kiss because movie language screams we're gonna kiss, but why would we actually kiss? Poe didn't particularly seem, I don't know, he had like some moments, he had like an interesting story arc where they were trying to say he didn't feel like there was much hope in the galaxy, and then he got shown that there was hope in the galaxy. It wasn't really a big change, I don't know, it was like a weird one in my opinion, because I feel like from earlier movies and earlier stuff you should have already seen there was hope in the galaxy. There was already more people helping the cause out than there was at the end of The Last Jedi, so over the time between the movies, more people had joined. So I was a little lost on this idea that he didn't think there was hope, because we already know more people had joined in the time period. So like, I mean, that other guy who was on the Millennium Falcon who was helping them on that journey, he wasn't there before, I don't believe. He wasn't, maybe I just didn't notice him, but I just felt like it was a weird kind of moment because we clearly saw more people in their base. So why was he thinking there was no hope in the galaxy? I don't know. It's a story arc of sorts, but I just didn't feel like it was very strong. So I guess to have like a final point to say about it was Rey herself, in that we were finally seeing more character of her, and I really enjoyed that. I did like that a lot more. I felt like it had a weird side where she was a main character and wasn't that heroic. This is why I'm not putting this quite in a negative or positive side, but she wasn't as a heroic, like she was doing stuff that wasn't really what you'd expect a hero to do, like the stuff a main character can do, but not particularly a hero, which is somewhat okay because they were trying to say that she's a Palpatine, and they were hinting at it earlier by having her, like, she thinks she kills Chewie. It's like, ooh, that's a big moment. But then when they go to rescue Chewie, she abandons, she's like, everybody else go rescue Chewie. I'd rather go fight Kylo, which is like, your main concern should have been Chewie in that moment. Or when they were trying to get off the desert planet, everybody needs to get together and get off this planet. We need to track down the Emperor. We need to stop him. She's like, no, I need to walk in the desert because I feel Kylo somewhere around here. It was just those kind of moments where it's like, why? Like, she's more interested in fighting Kylo. She's more interested in this. I guess they're tied together. She's more. They don't make it super clear that she's looking for the good in him. It doesn't seem like she really is. So I know Last Jedi, she was saying stuff like she sees good in him, which we're all like, where do you see that good? He didn't seem to really show it, but that's what they're pushing. But this movie, she doesn't say that. Her actions kind of reflect that's what she wants. But I think it came at the cost of her rescuing people, at the cost of her helping people, at the cost of her going out of her way. Like when you go back to the original trilogy, you had Luke abandoning his training to go rescue his friends. That's like a clear moment. You're like, I mean, even though the smarter thing might be finish training, you just feel you're got like rescue your friends. Like you just get that. Like that's like the good thing to do. That's the heroic thing to do, and hope that you would somehow help them and finish your training. It didn't work. I mean, he did rescue his friends. He also lost his arm. He also learned a bunch of terrible stuff, and clearly showed that his training was not complete. He still lost hand. A whole bunch of stuff happened, but there was that idea behind it. With her, it felt a lot of times she just didn't do the heroic thing. She didn't rescue people. She didn't want to. Like, she was like, we should. You guys save people. I'm off to do something else. It was a little weird that way. But like, again, that's kind of like I don't know, I don't consider it super big or positive or negative, because she is a Palpatine, so it does kind of hint towards that darker side of her nature that they kind of hinted at with the lightning, but they didn't really dive into as much. But I think they kind of dove into a little bit just in making her act that way during that movie, so I kind of like that. And I guess there's like a few stuff like that aren't really answered. I mean, there's still the idea of Snoke, what is Snoke then? If the Emperor made him, is he some kind of failed clone? Is he just, what is he exactly? How is there a whole planet of which have had a billion people on it in order to make all these Star Destroyers, man them? They all have soldiers and people who look normal and are crazy Sith hooded people, so who are they? Where did they come from? How did he get this massive amount of people money? I don't know. We can't keep giving the Emperor secret projects, but apparently we can, so. Anyway, that kind of concludes my whole discussion on Rise of Skywalker. Again, my rating, 3 out of 5. Recommended if you've seen Star Wars. Do not recommend it if you haven't seen Star Wars or are just trying to watch Star Wars for fun. Again, I guess you might enjoy the long fights and lightning, but it feels kind of hollow in a lot of ways. Again, I mean, unless you're watching it like I have, like after Force Awakens, I was not really enjoying the series. Start off the Last Jedi, I immediately was able to catch hold of Kylo's character, and I was like, okay, this is where he's coming from, this is why he's done this. That's something I can understand. All the other characters were like, here's where they came from, and now they're just doing something else that isn't really connected exactly. It's good stuff, it's what characters should be doing, it's what main protagonists would be doing in the situation, but it doesn't really line up with what their history is, and therefore character motivations just fell apart for me for most of the other characters. So that's why I enjoyed having Kylo here. It felt like for the most part throughout the movies it all made sense, aside from that scene of him killing his dad. He's like, I'm struggling so hard to be bad. That's what it felt like when he was saying, which was such a weird thing to say. Like, how many people walk around saying, I'm struggling to be a bad person right now? What does that mean? But I think they wrapped it up nicely. So, yeah, that's my review. 3 out of 5.